internet of value at Ripple, we're thinking much bigger than just cross-border payments. It's kind of like Amazon with rare books in the early days, just this market happens to be a $10 trillion market.
We are at a historic turning point.
Said in the past that you are doing for money what email did for communication.
Moving the whole revolution forward.
Take on it.
There's trillions of dollars parked around the world. XRP.
Is there a possibility that Ripple could take over Swift one day?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of 24 Hours Crypto. Let's get right into today's episode. This is going to have you on the edge of your seats because I watched this video twice and it had me on the edge and I had the biggest smile on my face. Because you know how I tell you guys that I go back and I review my videos and I watch it sometimes to do quality assurance, and the stuff that was said in this video almost 3 years ago now is just monumental. You're going to listen to what Markets Treacher said, okay? Well, listen to it now right off the bat. I don't want to make you hang in there.
So this isn't a speculator currency. It's a currency which is a long-term play for the future global transaction space. And that, I think, is incredibly powerful.
That is a man that worked at HSBC for almost 12 years, global head of innovation, payments, cash management, and trade. And then he went to become a board member at Swift, and he was there for 6 years. And for him to sit there and tell you this about XRP and that it is a long-term play.
So this isn't a speculator currency. It's a currency which is a long-term play for the future global transaction space. And that, I think, is incredibly powerful.
This man gets it. And that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. The individuals that understand truly how XRP is supposed to operate in this new world economy that they are designing, you're just praying that the price doesn't moonshot. And right now, it's just accumulate. And at the time of the video that you're going to listen to in a moment, that was when XRP was around 66 cents. Remember, XRP was trading sideways for years. And the best part about this is you're going to listen to what Brad Garlinghouse says about, individuals coming over from Swift. But this is something cool because Markets Treacher and Naveen Gupta worked at Ripple as well for 7 years and 2 months. This is the man that said this.
Ripple is not an ordinary company. We are not here to have a small market share or do X, do Y, and make small amount of money or something to happen. We are here to make a dent in the universe. Either we will change the remittance universe, the way you understand, the way value gets transferred across the world, between people, between institutions, or we will just fade away. So it's almost 0 or 1.
This is important because he was at HSBC and him and Marcus left at the same year. November 2015 is when Marcus left and Gupta left November 2015. Are you serious? 1 second. November 2015. That is absolutely insane. And he was also looking over national payments in India. Folks, like I said, XRP is the next Bitcoin on steroids. And while everybody is distracted with, somebody said this and I thought it was amazing, flavor of the week of coins. Remember, I've told you guys, I missed Solana at 50 cents. I missed Binance when it was at $1, $1.15, $2, thinking it was too expensive. And now you're seeing new coins come out like Midnight, doing these wild swings, and along with Canton that's coming out. Folks, I'm not saying they're not good investments, but I'm just saying you don't want to chase. Pick a solid core of assets and accumulate and funnel money into that and build solid foundations. You want to have your portfolios, if you want to accumulate a couple different bags, I highly suggest that your goal should be at least a minimum of $5,000 for each bag. Do not put 500 into these coins thinking they're going to do something. You can't hit buyer with small amounts and expect to have big returns. I'm telling you guys that from experience. Many of you guys could relate to that, and please leave your thoughts and comments in the comments down below. But take a listen to what Markets Treacher says. I mean, it's just remarkable. This thing is, the price is going to be so high. I mean, and like I say $100 XRP because that's like 100%. I mean, like, there's really nothing that you could, I know it sounds crazy right now. That's totally okay. But, you know, when you understand it, not just me, like you guys. Anyways, take a listen to this because this is truly, truly remarkable. Like, this video was so well put together that you got to listen to it again. It is absolutely insane. Remember what we said, repetition is important. We're all going through a learning phase. So this is actually very important listening to this right now because this is how I even do my learning and really, you know, bootstrap this and try to get everybody on board because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, folks. Remember that, once in a lifetime opportunity.
This video is gonna be so well put together that you are gonna walk away understanding exactly what's going on behind the scenes, exactly who is involved, and exactly how big XRP is gonna get. We got some video evidence by Marcus Treacher, Miguel Diaz, which is mind-blowing stuff. You can't miss a second of this. Where do we even begin? Talking about long-term hold. Take a look at what David Schwartz tweeted out. What do you call a bad short-term investment? And then he goes on to say a long-term investment. Is he hinting something at the XRP community? Because everybody says XRP is, you know, such a bad hold. But we, the holders that understand the value behind XRP and how it's going to be driven by its utility power, we got nothing to worry about. We just sit back and watch history be unfolded. With that being said, we have Singapore among world's first to agree stablecoin crypto regulation. This was just published 3 hours ago. Ripple has a big say in this. Ripple has a big play in this as well. Keep in mind, the stablecoin market is valued at around $125 billion, with two tokens, Tether's USDT and Circle's USDC, dominating roughly 90% of the market cap value. And also keep in mind that reserves that the bank stablecoins must be held in low risk and highly liquid assets. So they must equal or exceed the value of the stablecoin in circulation at all times, the rule said. And remember what Jeremy Allaire said about leveraging Brad's company.
USDC itself we've seen over $3.5 trillion of transactions directly on the internet between counterparties. And so if we can, you know, improve it with more scalable blockchain technologies like, you know, Brad's company.
You see how this is all making sense? USDC, USDT, stablecoins in general will still require Ripple. They still need to all communicate to each other, and you're going to hear that from Diaz. It is so massive here. Who is Miguel Diaz? Okay, well, Mr. Miguel is head of Toronto Center BIS Innovation Hub, and prior to that, he's been with the Banco de Mexico for a while, okay, since 2002. And then he went on to the BIS. And what was he looking over at Banco de Mexico? It was the General Director of Payment System and Market Infrastructure. There's a lot to say here. Because if we go into a letter that was sent from Ripple to Central Bank of Mexico, guess who it was attention to? Miguel Diaz, right here, ladies and gentlemen, Director of Payments, Miguel Diaz. They all know what's happening. Miguel Diaz, let this sink in. Letter from Ripple, direct it to him, Director of Payments. And then, don't forget, BBVA completes first real-time international money transfer between Europe and Mexico with Ripple. Now take a listen to what Miguel Diaz said here. We said this in the past. All of this technology they need to communicate to each other. And Ripple is the best at doing that. So take a listen to what he says. And then we're going to get into Marcus Treacher.
We can see three dimensions here.
One is the technical dimension, so how we manage to get a system that speaks in a certain cryptographic language to speak with another that speaks another slightly different language. So that is one level of complexity. We need to get the technologies to speak to each other. The messaging element is fundamental. The second dimension, which is much more complicated to solve, so that one, the first one was the easy one, okay? And there is a lot of money that is being put in terms of trying to solve these technical issues of interoperability. So imagine that you have a pair of currencies for which there is not a complementary demand. You need to go and search for a third-party currency in order to make this settlement actually happens. And this really complicates things. So we need to put pieces of technology that can make more efficiency this use of liquidity so that more transactions can be settled. The third dimension, which is even more difficult than the previous one, is how do we manage to get homogeneity in terms of the policy requirements on different countries.
And a quick overview on Marcus Treacher from Brad Garlinghouse.
One of the former board members of SWIFT, a gentleman Marcus Treacher, joined our team to run all of customer success. And, this was, a former board member from SWIFT coming over and saying, hey, we don't think SWIFT's going to be necessarily a solution to really unlocking this Internet of Value. These are, marks along the journey.
And now take a listen to what Miguel Diaz said and then what Marcus Treacher said.
The second dimension, which is much more complicated to solve, it has to do with liquidity.
The second half of the problem is all around liquidity. And the kind of elephant in the room is today the world locks up around, I think it's around 10 or 10 to 15, whatever, $trillion at any one time in balances and nostros in different parts of the world to fund payments which are sent in great big chunks at end of day or end of week. The opportunity here with CBDCs running domestically and with a bridge asset, another cryptocurrency model, a bridge asset to connect those CBDCs together, the opportunity is to deliver liquidity on point, in the moment, in microseconds from one part of the world to another. And the model that we focus on is using XRP, which is a very high velocity and very high volume digital asset. It's a free floating asset, unlike a CBDC or stablecoin. Use it as a bridge currency between these CBDCs. So you imagine a world in future where there are, let's say, 180 individual CBDCs per jurisdiction in the world. Making markets between those CBDCs is quite challenging unless you have a common single point, the bridge currency, which then enables connections to be made more efficiently and markets to be made between these individual currencies. So you put that together with both the bridge currency between those CBDCs and the overriding ledger connection between the blockchains that run those CBDCs, and you are kind of redefining how value is moved cross-border.
That Miguel Diaz video is only about 2 months old, so they still don't have a fix to their problem, but Ripple is the solution to their problem, and that is why it's taking so long. This is a long-term play. The future model they're creating for XRP is supposed to handle hundreds of billions of dollars. And on top of that, exchange in between 180 different CBDCs. Now again, let's go back to what Marcus Treacher has to say. This is a very high reputable individual making these bold statements and basically forgetting that he even worked at SWIFT, because SWIFT is such an old legacy system that is going to burn and crash, or they need to adopt to the new technology and have a plug-and-play system.
And we look at XRP as an intrinsic component of the future model. So this isn't a speculated currency, it's a currency which is a long-term play for the future global transaction space. And that, I think, is incredibly powerful. So we're here for the long game, and we're delighted at the rise of XRP and its resilience. And we believe that in the long term, it'll grow quite healthily as a result of what we're doing by creating this internet of value. And, you know, transforming how payments work worldwide, that's a really big deal. That is transformative. And again, one of my earlier slides about payments being the bedrock of everything else that happens on blockchain, that's so true. If you get this right, everything else will start to build. And that's why what we're doing, I think, is so important.
The second dimension, which is much more complicated to solve, it has to do with liquidity.
It's the same through a decentralized model, which is infinitely scalable. Supporting that, we have our liquidity proposition, which uses XRP, and that's a classic blockchain, but XRP was designed from the outset for transacting. So unlike the likes of Bitcoin, which is like very slow and slows down as you continue to build on volume, the XRP model is very, very, very high speed and very high capacity. So the liquidity part is very adequately served by the XRP model. The wider network we're creating, where if you're really going to create something of value for the 7 billion people in the world, or 9 billion by 2050, you've got to have a very open internet type model. And that's what we have with our ex-current Ripplenet model.
Liquidity, interoperability, and regulation, and a jurisdictionless asset is going to be one of the most important aspects of this new crypto revolution. And Ripple has all that built into its digital asset XRP. And like I said, 180 different CBDCs, derivatives, FX markets, bond settlements, stock settlements, tokenized real estate, anything with value they're bringing on to the blockchain. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate every single one of you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And we will be back with another video.
We started building Ripplenet with the thesis that crypto liquidity would eventually be able to support robust global payments, large payments. Ripplenet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch to ODL once the market was mature enough. And this is exactly what's happening. Flip the switch. I think what we're building has, it's solving a real problem. And I think all of the tokens, my advice to anybody would be, understand the utility. If there's real utility and there's real value being delivered to a real customer, there will be value in the token.
We're working with a group of banks who are actually doing some experiments to see if they can use their existing SWIFT infrastructure to instruct the value of tokenized assets across multiple private and public blockchains. CBDCs we've been working in for a little bit longer. We started off creating a connector on the CBDC side, between DLT-based and fiat-based systems using existing financial rails. Then we did some sandboxing again with a small group of people just to see, does this make sense? Is this the right way? And feedback from that group was, yes, it makes sense, and let's continue on experimenting. Then we had some central banks actually say, let me take your CBDC connector and we'll put it into our infrastructure and start doing some testing. And then we just opened up a second phase of sandbox testing with a larger group of banks and central and commercial banks that are looking at different use cases now and around FX and liquidity.
That's the way you say it. It's a long-term play.
Accept reality. Fiat money is moving digital.
Well, I woke up this morning, check my bags on the chain. XRPL still humming while the FUD folks complain. Ripple fighting Goliath, yeah, the SSA's game. But Johnny D and Hogan, they're bringing the flame. So we salute to the rebels in suits.
Good luck with it.
To the coders and hodlers wearing dusty old boots. Raise a toast to the ledger and the lawyers who bite, while taco stand dumps through the middle of the night.
Accept reality. Fiat money is moving
Brad
digital.
G's on the mic saying clarity now, while Shorts codes the stars with the hologram cow watch. The haters keep chirping, but the people ain't blind. This ain't some mean dream, it's the internet's spine. Regulators stalling, but the clock's ticking fast. Ripple drops the case like a baseline blast. Communities united, from Twitter to the street. We meme through the madness and never admit defeat.
That's the way you say it. It's a long-term
Yeah,
play.
we salute to the devs and the geeks. ledger that clears in seconds, not weeks. To D, to Hogan, to legal delight, and the salty old taco that just loves to spite. Hey Jed, you done yet? Or you got another dump scheduled for lunch? So here's to the warriors, the freaks, and the fans, waving salute tokens like battle flags in hand. It ain't just about coins, it's a movement, a pact. We defend what we build, and we're taking it back. Come on, salute to the ones in the fight, to the token that laughs in regulatory spite, to Schwartz, Brad, and the ones still believing, even while Taco stands always leaving. One for XRP, and raise your guitar for decentralized dreams. This song's for the ledger, the truth and the proof. With a smile and a nod, we say salute.
That's the way you see it. It's a long-term play. It has to have value. It can't just be a store of value for store of value's sake. It has to actually have a use case, and that's how we see this evolving.
Okay.
We started building Ripplenet with the thesis that crypto liquidity would eventually be able to support robust global payments, large payments. Ripplenet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch to ODL once the market was mature enough. And this is exactly what's happening. Flip the switch. I think what we're building has, it's solving a real problem. And I think all of the tokens, my advice to anybody would be, understand the utility. If there's real utility and there's real value being delivered to a real customer, there will be value in the token.